Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which is 6 guaranteed ways to engage your dispersed workforce. So, who we've got on today? So, I'm joined by my colleague Nick Toon.
Hi guys, nice to see you all there.
And I'm Scott Harvey. So just to give you a bit of a heads up, guys, we're going to do some interactive polls today. So we're going to try and keep you guys as engaged as possible. But also try and keep it as light as possible as well. We appreciate that in the UK especially, it's post-lunch and before home time, so it's not going to be too heavy.
Yeah, not trying to send you under after a big lunch.
When we do these polls, you'll be able to see some of the stats in terms of participation. Just to let you know, we've got about 60 people on today's session, so a really great turnout. So thank you very much. And just do a little bit of housekeeping for anybody who's not used GoToWebinar before. If you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the GoToWebinar panel. We'll do our very best to answer as many of those questions as we can at the end. Any that we don't have time for, we'll take offline and we'll get a response to you as soon as we can. Okay, so we're going to kick things off with a poll.
Yeah, let's start with the first one. So this whole webinar is to do with how you engage with your dispersed workforce. So it'd be worth just getting a bit of a gauge out there. How well do you feel you actually communicate with your dispersed workforce? So you should be able to see the answers on the screen now. So if you could just make your choice. Just over half of you have voted, so we'll just give it a few more seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. Again, great turnout there, guys.
So we'll just share these with you, and it'll be a good precursor to the next part of the webinar.
So kind of not surprised by these results, Nick, are you?
Yeah.
Like,
no, I mean,
webinar.
If everybody said that they were communicating really well,
yeah,
then we could just close it now,
shut
now. But yeah, it's no surprise there that 83% of you say that it could be improved. 17%. Not well at all, so definitely some work to do there.
So hopefully there's going to be some good takeaways for everybody on today's session, which is great.
Cool. So why is it? So it's obviously very important these days, with companies who have these dispersed workforces, and I think a dispersed workforce can mean lots of different things. It can mean like if you were a retailer, for instance, you've got your frontline retail staff. If you are, a telecoms company and you've got people up telephone pylons fixing things, they're going to be more mobile based. And then you've got, office workers, I guess, who are, working outside of the office at least.
Yeah, or even people just work from home now.
Exactly.
I think.
So we've got a few stats here that we've taken from various sources on the web just to kind of give you a bit of background. So we've got 61% of workers report working outside the office at least part of the time.
48% of millennials view video solely on their mobile device.
3+ devices are used daily by an employee for work activities.
And 91% of people have a mobile device within reach 100% of the time. Well, mine definitely is next to me. I don't know about you guys, but that's, I actually sleep with mine. It's on the bedside table.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's quite worrying.
It's passion.
But yeah, so it just goes to show you there that it's going to be important. The rise of this dispersed workforce, and what we're going to just go through now is some of the key considerations. We are obviously going to give you some some tips to engage your workforce, but there are these key considerations that we'll just run through first.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into these in a bit more detail, and as Nick said, right at the end, we'll then finish on the 6 guaranteed ways to engage your dispersed workforce, and we're hoping that there'll be some takeaway parts there. So the first one, research.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth bearing in mind as well. A lot of these, they might seem quite obvious. So, for instance, the first one there, is there a mobile audience, or do you have a dispersed workforce? That's pretty simple question.
You might look at some of these slides, guys, and think, wow, are they stating the obvious here? But when we thought about how we go about determining how we engage a dispersed workforce, we thought it might be worthwhile taking it all the way back to the start when you are doing the research phase. And this is almost a little bit like a formula, we thought, didn't we, Nick?
Yeah.
So yeah, very basic first question. Is there actually a mobile audience?
And obviously that's important to know, because before you start dedicating time and resource to creating mobile friendly content or or a kind of a community feel to bring those dispersed workers connect them to the main office, you need to know do you actually have one? Is it worth it? Is it going to be worth the effort?
And then the next question, if the answer to that is yes, then is the size of the audience. And it could be a case of it's 5% of the workforce. And if that is the case, then it might be a case of you don't put as much resource, as much finance, other bits and bobs into this. It might be a case of you don't need a solution that's as robust.
Yeah.
Or it could be a case of it's 5% now, but in 5 years' time, it's going to be 30%, and then there's a bigger piece there. So I suppose it's not just looking at the short term in terms of size of audience, it's looking at the long term as well.
That's right. And then on to the next part is the type of content. So, it may be you just want to deliver announcements, major internal announcements to, you might be a charity, you might have volunteers. And what you want to do is just keep them up to date with things. So it might be a simple announcement. It may be even blogs as well, so like user-generated content. But then you might want to go the whole hog and give these employees access to critical documents and policies,
for sure,
wherever they may be, whether they're working from home, whether they're out in the field.
Exactly. I think all of these points on here as well, Nick, it's almost like creating your blueprint for how we're going to do this effectively. And it leads us quite nicely into the next point is, actually, once we've determined that, does this content already exist? So we know the type of content that we need to deliver to our dispersed workforce, but actually, is someone going to create that? Do we need to rework it? Or is it already in a format that we can just shift on to people?
Yeah.
Then the next piece is around frequency. So actually, how often does this content need to be produced and served up? Is it content that we just have already in place for a non-dispersed workforce that we can just push out at the same time as all the other ones? Or do we need to be more specific about it? I.e., if someone is using a mobile device and they're in a frontline, say, healthcare role, what is the optimum time for them looking at their mobile device, and how often would they actually get time to do that? Because what you don't want to be doing is creating content for content's sake and no one reading it.
And then last of all is how are you actually going to deliver it? So, it may even be a simple case of you just send in an email. I mean, obviously, it's not the perfect way of doing it, but, we
even spoke about text, didn't we?
Yeah, you can text things. But, and then you've got like the more modern way. So obviously we're an intranet company. So you could have an intranet that either has a dedicated mobile app along with it, or at least responsive at the very least.
Things like dedicated notifications, all sorts of stuff. And it can be there's just the format of that as well. Is it web-based pages? Is it documents that people can download? Is it discussion forums? And there's a whole host of different things that we can explore. So that's a little bit about research. So the blueprint and almost like the business case for this, I think.
And then a bit more on the technology. So we just mentioned there, how are you going to deliver this? Do you actually have the technology needed to deliver this content? So, again, just going back to what I was saying before, you may have an intranet already. Is it a case of, we just want to make it responsive? Is that company just brought out a new app that you want to roll out to people? Or it may be a case of, we don't actually have anything. We don't have anything. So we need to look at what technology is needed. Yeah. I know certain companies have started to build like a dedicated company app as well, which kind of works a bit like an intranet, but it's not quite as...
A bit more stripped down.
Not quite as comprehensive, and it's more of a communications tool.
Yeah, and I suppose it depends on the purpose as well. It could be something maybe more HR specific. It could be finance specific, so things like payroll, P60.
Training.
For sure, yeah. So it's not
training.
Necessarily intranet related or comms. It can be around other stakeholder groups.
Yeah.
And then finally, technology budget on this side. So we've discovered that we don't have the technology for it, or we need to rework our existing technology. But actually, do we have the finance available to do that? And then it's a case of looking at budgets in a particular cost center, the whole business. Does it have to go into next year? What are the ongoing costs, support, maintenance, those types of things?
And then moving on to the other side, it's good to think about your beyond.
I was waiting for Nick to get beyond out of his system, and he's done it.
Bring your own device, and I know it can be a bit of a sticky subject for some companies, because there's obviously we've got it above there, security concerns,
and things like insurance and stuff as well. I broke my own phone on the job. Like, what do you do in that case? I think you have to have some quite robust, an open-minded view on bring your own device, but you've got to have some really robust policies around that.
Absolutely, and we touch on that later on the
but it can surely help out with the budget side of things, which is always useful.
Absolutely, and I find that as well. I don't know about you, but I would just prefer to use my own piece of equipment.
Yeah, and we spoke about this before, didn't we, Nick? And it was, you want to use your own device because you don't want to carry multiple devices with you, which is sometimes a little bit awkward. But you're used to using your device, so there's a usability aspect there. I know my device. I know how content gets served up on it. I feel familiar with it, as everyone knows, because I sleep with my phone, Nick. So yeah, there's definitely a usability case there, I think, as well. And then the final piece, just talking about security, is talking about security. So it can be things like mobile device management, so using a system to actually control what access people have to apps, so being able to remove content from a mobile device, wipe it clean if it gets stolen.
If it's lost,
and then things like authentication as well. I mean, depending on your security policies internally, you might want people to log in via Active Directory, use the same Windows password that they log in with, or it might use a third-party client for single sign-up. So it's important that people don't have to have a separate username and password to log into something else, which can be a little bit of a disengaging factor.
Yeah, and a bit of a barrier.
Okay, and the final point is governance.
So this is this is more of a general thing. So roles and responsibilities is the first one. So is this just going to form part of the internal comms strategy?
Yeah,
where it's actually built into that.
Or if you've not got internal comms, so in marketing or HR, or it could even be that if you want to go full hog and have a fully fledged mobile intranet, it might be a case of you have a decentralized approach where each stakeholder group are responsible for their own team or their own departmental content.
Yeah, and then that moves on to the expertise. Do you actually have that in-house expertise, or would you even look to outsource that?
Yeah, I think this one is going to be very much dependent on the type of technology used, because with some applications it might be a case of you deliver content via web pages, but to get it on a mobile it needs to be reworked for responsive design, or it could be a case of you want to develop something specifically. In terms of actual content itself, we're hoping that people will be able to take some stuff away from this to give them the ideas and the inspiration needed to deliver content for a mobile or a dispersed audience. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a content writer, I suppose, I think. Or it could be you might want someone who's very specialized at writing things like blogs, writing company-wide content, getting that tone of voice and things just right. I'm stealing my thunder for the rest of this slide.
And that probably depends on the size of the company as well.
I agree.
If you're a 100 employee company, you might not stretch that far. But if you're a 10,000 user company, employee company, then you're more likely to probably have someone dedicated to it.
Sure, or even a team of people perhaps.
Yeah.
And then the next piece is around capacity and budget. So actually we've identified that we need to go and engage our dispersed workforce. We've identified that we've got technology we need to put in place. But actually, it's going to be someone there who's got the time and available kind of capacity to manage this, produce that specific content if it's needed. Because there's no point in getting everything in place and then having no one to actually produce the content for it.
Absolutely.
And then budget around that, because it could be a case of, well, we haven't got capacity to do this, so we need to actually take someone new on, and actually can we afford to recruit at this time?
And then objectives. I think that it kind of ties in with the other two above: policies and procedures, tone of voice. What is it that you're actually looking to achieve? I'm guessing, and it's always dangerous when I start guessing what people's objectives are. But what I found in my experience of speaking to companies with dispersed workforces is that they tend to feel real disconnect with head office. So they might go to head office for training. They spend 2 or 3 weeks there, and then they're off in their own office or out in the field, and that's probably the last touch point they have. So there's a lot of you know, a lot of feeling of disconnection there. And you know, are you just looking to try and bring them into the fold? You know, give them a bit of a voice, give them a platform to communicate with each other.
Drive that, I suppose, that long-term sense of community.
Exactly, yeah. And we all know that having that sense of community, you know, is always going to be a benefit to you know, to a company and their employees. And the tone of voice kind of links into that as well. So if you've got you know, engineers who are out in the field and you want to send specific messages to them, you might need to take on their kind of slang, the way they talk their language, rather than it being you know, very you know, very kind of like 1950s BBC broadcast.
And I think that's going to involve some consultation, I think. So user surveys, getting out there, speaking to the guys, maybe looking at some analytics as well, if that's available in any of the platforms that you guys are considering or looking to choose. Great.
Okay, so I think we've got another poll now.
So here we go, next poll.
So this poll is just a very simple question. Do you currently...
Uh-oh.
Scott,
sorry,
you just ruined the whole thing. Do you currently have technology in place to satisfy a mobile workforce? So the question should be up on the screen.
Sorry for the minor technical hitch there, guys. Well, I say technical, it was human error.
It was Scott's sausage fingers pressing the wrong button.
Thanks, Nick.
So nearly everybody's voted now, and interesting results.
Yeah, it's quite an even split there.
Yeah, it's so it shows here. There you go. There, you can see there that 62%. You say that you do have a current technology in place.
Do you know, I'm not overly surprised by that, Nick. Actually, you might be surprised to hear me say that, but I think the rise of mobile working and dispersed workforces and the technology we use and consume on a day-to-day basis, I think is starting to really have real influence in the workplace. So I'm not overly surprised that the yes camp is higher here.
What I'm interested in is what we're going to do. We're going to do another poll straight away, because what I'm interested in is what type of technology is being used. So we've determined that 62% of you use something, but it'd be interesting to try and find out what it actually is. So
because we mentioned a few things so far, from HR systems, e-learning tools, intranet, text, email.
So we could have had like a list of like 20 things on here, but these are probably the most popular ones. So just wait for a few more votes to come in, and it's
really great to see so many people getting involved as well. I'm really pleased with this, Nick.
Just give it a couple more seconds. There we go, I think.
Oh.
So there we go. So as you can see, it's email comes out on top. Not surprisingly, because everybody's got email.
Mainstay.
31% intranet, 23% all of the above. Nobody with a dedicated mobile app.
Yeah.
So but that's not surprising, because that's very that can be very very pricey. It requires a lot of development, and it's probably going to be something very specific. Whereas an intranet is a bit more of an overarching piece of software.
Brilliant. Cool. Let's move on. And again, thank you everyone for getting involved there.
So now we're here. Now this is the good stuff. This is the 6 guaranteed ways to engage your dispersed workforce, and we're just going to go through each of these one by one and say a few things about each one.
As we always do, Nick, have a good chat through each of these.
Absolutely.
Points. And we're hoping these are going to be some of the takeaway things. You guys might already be doing some of these and doing them well, but we want to come up with almost a generic list, didn't we, of things that we could serve up for some people.
And you may be doing a lot of this stuff already, but I mean, the first one is optimize content for mobile. So we've already discussed the reason why this is important, with all the stats that we showed before about the rise of mobile working, and the fact that pretty much everybody has a mobile phone next to them, you know, at all times, and they're more likely to access things on their mobile rather than on a, you know, on a desktop.
And we hear it all the time when we speak to customers, don't we, Nick, that if you're in a frontline role, in particular in healthcare or maybe in retail or manufacturing, you're not a desk-based employee, so you don't necessarily have access to a desktop computer or a laptop or a notebook, but you do have access to a mobile device more often than not. And I think that's where we're seeing a real rise in terms of if it is content for a dispersed workforce, it's now largely a case that it's mobile.
Absolutely, and you know, you can do. There are some basic things that you can do to optimize the content for mobile. So, you know, even just ensuring that any images that you use are optimized for mobile, because the images are usually the part that takes the longest to download. So you can't just assume that everybody's on 4G or, you know, connected to Wi-Fi.
For sure.
And it's the same with videos as well. And also, you know, try and use a responsive template for everything as well, so that it actually, you know, snaps into place. You're not having to kind of move around, zoom in and out, which you know, it isn't the best.
And I'm going to drop in the word, Nick, that we don't know exists, but scrollability.
Scrollability.
I don't know whether that is an actual thing, but we're throwing it out there. Having text that's just easy to scroll through. You don't want to be going to the right, up, down, having to zoom in,
or even having to like press a button to flip pages. If you could just have one
vertical scrolling mode is ideal. Perfect. And then the next one is know your audience.
And again, I think we've touched on this previously as well. Is, you know, knowing your audience. You know, are the majority of your workforce in the field? How are they going to be accessing the content? We've talked about tone of voice, but then, you know, we've got this part as well, which is quite interesting. And this is, some of you may have heard of this before, some of you may not have.
Do you want me to tackle the tongue twister, Nick?
I think you can, yeah.
It's bite, snack, meal.
Not bike.
Snack, meal.
And essentially what this is three different ways to, I suppose,
structuring your content.
Yeah, structuring your content. Yeah, it's going to be the same piece of information, but it's structured in different ways. So your bite is it's like a headline with a message. Your snack is more of like a concise summary, and your meal is
the full content,
the main event. That's the full thing.
And it might be a case of the people who are out in dispersed roles, they maybe need more bite-sized content. They need things that catch their eye. They need things that they're going to be able to be directed to easily, because they're out there and they're typically doing busy jobs. Office-based, I think, is more for snack and meal. I mean, for me, the bite is the driver into those two things for sure. But it might be a little bit easier for people in a desk-based role to be able to snack and meal, because it's just easier to access that content on a desktop or a laptop. Cool.
And I think the key thing there is just don't just publish meals, don't just publish like the big documents. You know, try and break it down, give people a bit of an option.
And actually, on that point as well, I think using Interact Biasly here as an example, you can actually get a platform that will do all of them in one. So obviously, me and Nick know our solution really well, and it's quite good at you having one platform that you maintain that satisfies the dispersed workforce as well as people who are in desk-based roles, because it'll give you the ability to deliver what we call a page, which can be like a web page or an uploaded document. You can have attachments on the right-hand side. It's all fully responsive, and you can get it through a mobile app as well. So it means you've got that one-stop shop, but it actually works for people in all roles across a whole organization.
And we're kind of talking about the bite part. That was it's almost like the clickbait, isn't it? You know, getting people to actually click on it. And there is an actual technique. There is a formula. And what we're going to try and do now is try and master that headline formula.
Me and Nick like thinking this is the fun part of today's webinar. So this is all about mastering the headline formula. As Nick said, this is about, I don't know, sometimes when I've been writing content before, I get a little bit of writer's block. I'm thinking, how do I make this sound really exciting? And how are people really going to read this? This is the headline formula.
Well, the thing is, you could have the best piece of content in the world, but if nobody clicks on it, then what's the point? No one's going to read it. So this is as important, or even more important, than the actual content itself.
100%. It's just, I suppose, it's newspaper methodology, the splash.
Yeah, it's the headline. So we've got some examples here. We've got basically you've got your number or your trigger word, you've got the objective, and then you've got a promise at the end. So before the formula was how to bathe an elephant,
which I probably would have clicked on anyway.
Thought about that. We've all thought about, how do you do that? But then you can see there after the formula, it brings it to life a little bit, a bit more dynamic. 18 unbelievable ways you can bathe an elephant. Bath an elephant. So they've even changed the word. So,
and do you know what? I thought it was pretty interesting anyway. I would definitely be more inclined to click it. And the same with the bottom one as well. Not quite as exciting as bathing an elephant, this one, but how to sell your house. Okay, it's pretty standard phrase. Afterwards, how you can effortlessly sell your home in less than 24 hours. And I think it's the promise that's really captivating on that one. It's a 24 hours thing, and I'd be like, wow, that's all over 24 hours? Well, I wish I had that.
But it's the same message, just reworked. Just reworked in different ways. And we've got some more examples. So we've got 5 Monday morning tasks for a successful week.
57 powerful CRM tips you probably didn't know.
This department saved 50k with one clever trick, and just to let you know, we've highlighted the last one. Don't do something like this because this one isn't going to win you any friends. 3 colleagues just got made redundant. You won't be surprised to see who.
It was a nice little harmony there on the end. So that's the headline formula, and we can send these slides out at the end, guys. So if you haven't had a chance to jot all that stuff down about headline formula, let us know, and we'll send the slides across to you. So the next one is all about prioritizing important content. So this is really just about if you've got people in dispersed roles and they are using, say, a mobile device, it's quite a question that's bound with common sense, I think. Do they need all the content that the business produces on a mobile device? And I think it's a multifaceted approach, I think, in terms of, one, does the audience actually need all that information, and is it going to be overwhelming? Because once people start getting overwhelmed, then they're going to switch off, they're disengaged. But actually, if you've actually got to tailor that documentation and that content to work on a mobile device or get it delivered, someone's got to physically go away and do that, and that's where that capacity, resource, and budget thing comes in again. Do we really need to spend all the effort making our content mobile ready?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually thought of this in a different way as well. It's interesting for your take on that in terms of like prioritizing. What we're actually going to present to them. But I read into it slightly differently. I thought it was going to be more like the information that we provide them, how we're going to prioritize it, how we're going to make sure that the important stuff shows at the top, cuts above all of everything else. So in terms of, I can only speak from an intranet point of view. What we would probably do is if we had an important message, we'd have it on the homepage.
Yeah.
You may even use some kind of feature like a mandatory read to make sure that people have actually clicked something to say that they've read and understood whatever that message may be.
Or even sponsored search results. So someone types in a keyword, is there an alert to say, right, you searched this keyword, this is probably the most relevant content?
Yeah, like a best bet, like it always shows at the top.
That's it.
So there's a couple of different SKUs on that one.
I like it.
But obviously both very valid. So.
And then the second to last, give your employees a voice. So this might be a little bit tricky depending on the tools that you've got available or the finance that you've got, or even culturally. It might not even work for every organization, but it's something that we actively encourage when we're speaking to customers, is to actually give your employees a voice. Yeah,
and it's vitally important, particularly for a dispersed workforce. If you can imagine, if you're a charity with lots of volunteers, out and about, they will feel that disconnection. But if they've got some kind of platform, it may be like a forum, team area where they can connect with other people who are in a similar job role to them, and they can share obviously the things that they're happy with, any challenges, and obviously get feedback from their peers as well, and you create that that community, and more importantly share knowledge as well.
Yeah, it's like almost empowering the team to grow the content base.
Absolutely,
and it's really powerful.
And I think that companies who don't give their employees a voice, they miss out on all of this knowledge sharing, and I think it's pretty evident that employees who feel like they have a say
feel more valued.
Yeah. They're more valued, they're more focused.
That's got to impact retention as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and it just makes for a much better working environment, and like I say, bring those those dispersed workers back into the fold, make them feel that they're actually a part of something rather than just being left out on their own.
I think we've missed an opportunity for a stat here, Nick.
Go on.
I'm sure I read something quite recently. Not
Is it going to be accurate?
It's not verbatim, this guy. But and I think I fall into this camp as well, and I'm sure you'll agree. But some of my best ideas happen when I'm out of the office. I'm at home. I'm in the shower. I'm in bed with my phone next to me. You know, and actually, you want to be able to capture that right there and then. So being able to just click onto your phone or click onto your tablet or a little netbook, share that idea, start a discussion, whatever you need to do. I think that's a really powerful thing, because not all the best ideas or all the best comments or all the best feedback happens during 9 to 5.
So is that why I keep on getting emails from you at 1 a.m?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always, and I think there's the last point on this, and this is a really good slide, Nick. I think there's some productivity gains to be had here as well. So cutting down on frequently asked questions into key departments, giving employees the ability to self-serve their own answers, cutting down the time they have to wait for things or chase things up. So I think it's a really encompassing thing, this.
Yeah, particularly for like HR. HR must get asked the same questions.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And IT as well. My laptop's broken or my mouse doesn't work. What do I do? Like, well, you might struggle if your mouse is broken.
Yeah.
Or...
So you're almost like crowdsourcing answers, aren't you?
Exactly. And then I'll let you say it, Nick.
Embrace the beyond.
So quite a challenging one. One that's driven by common sense, because if you've gone through the research phase and you're going through the technology phase and you think, well, okay, we've got a mobile audience that's only going to grow. We do need to engage them. We haven't got the technology owned as an organization.
Yeah, we haven't got the budget to buy it.
So what do? Embrace, bring your own device. Yeah. And it does bring up some challenges around things like security, around insurance, around risk. So it's going to have some robust policies and procedures around it for sure. But it does get over the technological and the financial burden, and I think there's a big accessibility thing here for sure.
Without a doubt, and I think there's going to be some cost savings in there as well, because I don't know about you, but I buy myself. I download apps and buy software on my phone that I use for work.
Sure.
But I don't charge that to the company. I just buy that myself because it's more on my device. It makes my life easier. So, I think employees who have their own device will be more likely to, put their hand in their own pocket, maybe get an app for.
Yeah, definitely. I think it mirrors there's some advantages that emerge from the previous slide as well, Nick, in terms of when you are using your own device, you haven't got the awkwardness of having to carry 2 devices with you. So if you've always got your phone within a meter of you 91% of the time, then and you're using your own device, you're just again more inclined to get involved, to consume information that's available, or to give back if you've got the ability to provide your own voice.
That's right. Yeah, because if I had a separate work phone, you'd probably just stay in my
turn it
off
when you're finished, and that'd be it, done. Yeah. But if you were there at night, you were on the Facebook app and you're scrolling through your timeline, you're doing your bits and bobs, then you might click onto your company's app, or you might visit your company's website or the portal, or check your email.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always a hidden agenda, isn't there, on these webinars?
I think we've mentioned it a few times in today's session that Interact works really well in mobile mode. There's a dedicated app for iOS and Android. It's built completely in responsive design. So we would be more than happy if everyone wants to take a quick 20-minute tour of Interact mobile.
Not right now.
And see what it's all about. Then you're more than welcome. We can come out and see you. We can do something else online.
Because it's not just, and this isn't just for your dispersed workforce. This will be for your entire company. You will have an intranet that people in the head office can access. But then also your dispersed workforce will always have a platform there to access as well.
Cool. And that is it, guys. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are. Much appreciated.
But we do have something else. It's getting bigger and bigger. This is our interaction conference.
Well, it's got so big that we used to do 1 per year, but now we're going to do 2. So this is the first one. This is Interaction Spring 2017. So lots of really great keynote speakers, lots of professionals from the industry that cover comms, HR, IT. If you've got a vested interest in digital comms, in intranets, in communication strategy, And it's definitely for you, and you're more than welcome to come along. We'd love to see as many of you there as possible.
And you can use the code there, webinar25, to get 25% off. So we've got a question.
Sure. Okay, so it's a really, really good question. So it's about mobile working on tablets. So as far as I'm aware, at the moment, Interact Mobile, I don't think, is it, you can download it for iPad. I think it's just for phones at the moment, isn't it?
Just the dedicated app is just for phones. But we do have, I know for a fact that we do have some customers who are using tablets and just using responsive mode.
Yeah, so Interact in particular looks really great in responsive mode, and it renders really nicely against any size of resolution of screen, and supported browsers, Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer. So most modern day tablets are pretty much good. So if you're using an iPad or an Android-based tablet or a Windows-based tablet, it's all good.
What you could do as well, you could have, because of the flexibility of Interact, you could have a dedicated homepage that's been designed specifically with like tablets in mind. So with big buttons that are easy to push and direct you through to all the various different places. So it's a bit
more visual. And some of my customers, Nick, that are using tablets and mobile devices, and in particular want to use mobile responsive mode rather than an app, they actually save a bookmark to their app screen.
Yep.
So it looks like an app. It's with all your other apps. It can be in a particular folder. So from a user experience point of view, you click that, you log in or authenticate however you do, and you're straight into responsive mode. And it almost feels like you're using an app.
Yeah. But I think I would imagine that the dedicated app for tablets is probably something that would be, we'll be looking to develop.
For sure. Cool. And that is it, guys. Well, thanks again for joining us. Much appreciated. We hope to see you on a webinar again soon. And yeah, have a good end to your day.
Yeah. Take care, guys. Thank you very much.